Hello, and welcome back to a Hanapin Marketing webinar. Today we are talking about 5 vital tips for the travel marketer. Now, my name is Carrie Albright, and I am happy to be co-hosting today with Shannon Glass, one of the account managers here at Hanapin Marketing. But Shannon, I'll let you introduce yourself.
Hey everyone, I'm Shannon Glass, as Carrie mentioned. I've been at Hanapin for about 2 years now as an account manager. I've managed various accounts from small business to enterprise. I'm really excited to speak with everyone today about the travel industry. If you would like, or if you have any questions, follow me on Twitter or feel free to direct message me at Shannon K. Glass.
Awesome. And again, I'm Carrie Albright. I'm an associate director here at Hanapin Marketing. I'm excited to be sharing the stage with Shannon today because we actually just finished a webinar on Tuesday where we had Greg from Friendly Planet come and talk about how Shannon and Greg collaborated to use Gmail ads for improving the revenue they were seeing for their travel company. So this is kind of the part 2 where Shannon and I break down how exactly we'd recommend travel marketers go about making sure they're using all sorts of great tools and strategies to approach their industry. Now, Shannon mentioned her Twitter handle. Again, mine is down there as well, but you can also use the hashtag ThinkPPC and tweet to us with any questions, comments, thoughts you're having, jokes that you just loved that one of us dropped during the webinar, whatever you want to do. We're always happy to respond to the hashtag ThinkPPC comments that we get from you all. So feel free to use that. Also, there's a little question box in the webinar login that you can use if you've got any specific questions. We've got a Q&A at the very end here, so make sure to get your questions in before we wrap for the day, and we'll be sure to address them on today's webinar.
Perfect. So to start out today, we have a quick live poll question. So on your screen, the question just popped up. So how long have you been in PPC? And you can see the options there. So Carrie, what do you think it'll be? On Tuesday, it was mainly 1 to 3 years.
You know what? I want to say that I think it's probably going to be about the same range. Maybe some newer folks, just because you know, as people are still learning about how to do the best they can for their industries, they oftentimes reach out to a lot of different resources. And webinars are one of my favorite ways to do it because you get the visual tools of looking through slides and data and stuff. But you can also just listen to it on your lunch break, or you know, kind of just hear the recording and then follow up with the slide deck later. So I'm thinking that that's the way that we're going to see these numbers come out.
Perfect. So we've seen the same results that we've seen on Tuesday. So the majority of you are from 1 to 3 years.
All right. Well, sounds good. My hope is that we've got as many folks from Tuesday's webinar coming through, and that we can make sure that we're speaking to what you need. All right, so we've got our poll all taken care of, which means we're about to get into our content. Now, I'm going to double check here that y'all can still see my screen, because the last thing I want to do is make sure that, the last thing I want to do is not have you looped in on the examples that we're giving. So, all right. So what I've got here is the poll questions come up. I'm going to jump back in here and make sure y'all are seeing my screen. Looks like we're getting there. All right. Well, that was fun. That was the best technical hiccup I've had all day, so I'm feeling pretty good about that. But Shannon, why don't you go ahead and start us off here as far as what we're going to be covering and kind of what we talked about on Tuesday.
Perfect. So yeah, a little bit about what we're going to be covering today is going to be Gmail ads. So we're going to be focused on the travel industry as a whole, but just to kind of loop back into what we talked about on Tuesday, I did want to give a quick snippet about Gmail ads. So just kind of the basics behind them. So if you're unfamiliar with Gmail ads, what they are they're ads that are shown in a user's inbox. So initially what you have is a teaser ad at the very top of the promotions tab, where you can have a headline and then a basic description. And then from that point, once a user clicks, they see an enlarged ad where you can include many different things from your different product offerings, just who you are as a company, videos, and whatnot. There are many different options that you can use Gmail ads for. So if you missed our webinar on Tuesday, feel free to check that out. But then we also have many articles on our blog, PPC Hero. The reason why we love Gmail ads is because they're really more personal. So instead of seeing an ad on the display network, this is right in the user's inbox. It's where they're at the majority of the day, where they're constantly checking emails and so forth. Another reason why we love Gmail ads is just the targeting capabilities that we have for them. So you can target anything from various competitor domains or different domains where you may think that your audience is receiving correspondence from already. And then you can also target customer match lists, which really allows you to really focus on the key audience and those who are already associated with your brand. And the final reason why we love Gmail ads is just because there's so many different ad formats that you can use. You can include so much information within the ad, and it's just a really great way to show users who you are and get that right in their inbox.
As somebody who does work in the travel industry for some of our clients, I definitely subscribe to all sorts of different kinds of mailings so that I'm getting information about what our competitors are doing, what's going on in the industry, stuff like that. So I get a lot of Gmail ads in my inbox. So for those of you out there in cyberspace listening to this webinar, if you get the same thing, if you're starting to look through your inbox and seeing these ads pop up, feel free to take a screenshot of your favorite ones and share them with the hashtag ThinkPPC. I know that something I really love is seeing what other people are doing and seeing how that could translate to my clients. What Shannon and I are going to talk through as far as ads go really varies a lot, and as we always say, it's important to test what works for you and not just listen to what everyone else says. But yeah, share it if you've got some examples of things that you think are really cool that you as a consumer respond to. Definitely pass them along, because we're all about sharing information, learning from each other, and everybody getting that much better.
Exactly. Yeah, and one thing that we learned too is that it's not the same for any two clients. So we're really happy to see other different ad formats and how that works out for everybody else. Perfect. So we're going to get started today with our 5 tips for travel marketers. So we're going to go through 5 different areas. We're going to focus on the audience, competitors, ad copy, time lag, and then seasonality, and just how that fits in with travel specifically.
So the first point here that we've got is to know your audience. And what we mean by that is understanding who you're speaking to and the ways that you can target the folks that you realize are the best shot for you in connecting with those ready to make a purchase. So on the left-hand side here, we've got some examples of ways you can break down your own data as it comes through your ad platform. And on the right-hand side, we've got some options for what you do to actually reach out and target to them intentionally. So for knowing for your audience, for what's happening in your PPC accounts, I have 3 different examples that we had mentioned on the previous slide. There's things like using your average income as a target through your Google ads. Now this is a screenshot here of what we typically do. It's in the location targeting, and simply what you do is you go into the demographic target and you can actually choose what income level you want. So if you've gone through, typically I'd recommend adding all of the different income levels at 0% bid adjustment, just so you can start collecting data on exactly who's showing up where and who's actually converting. And then once you see performance come through, make potential optimizations or targets based on that data. Similarly, the languages that you target, obviously if you're reaching out to people, you want to make sure you're resonating with them in a language that they are able to speak. So it doesn't mean that you have to have ads in every single language, but it is knowing that as you're reaching out to them with, say, English ads, it's possible that they're speaking other languages and that Google knows they're speaking other languages as well. And lastly, is the demographic data. There are a million ways to break down your demographic data, and this is just an example of one thing we've seen in one of our travel clients, where we can see that as far as the engagement, it comes from a lot of different assortments of ages, genders, parental statuses, things like that. So looking at the data that you're seeing in your actual AdWords account can inform exactly who's out there, and then taking the performance from that allows you to build on what's going to work best for whatever your target is.
Perfect, yeah, and then to kind of segue from that, my favorite part of this, I think, is definitely knowing your targets and who exactly you're going to target within your ad copy. And this can be, within Gmail or within, pretty much any aspect of AdWords. So who do you want to reach? And the first one here, so we have a list of a couple different targeting, I guess, methods. The first one is probably one of my favorites, and it's definitely customer match. So with all of those emails that you receive probably on a daily basis, how can you segment those more granularly to, target that specific audience? So for example, in Gmail ads, if you have, a list of customer emails who have never purchased from you, target them and show them an ad within Gmail, and it just throws it right there at the top of their inbox, and it kind of brings that brand awareness back around and so forth. And then one of the newest features to kind of stem from that is similar audience targeting. So this is another one where we see these users come in, we see the various bookings and whatnot. How can we bring in people who are like that? So not necessarily anybody in the United States, but people who match the same characteristics of those who have already booked with us. And then the final two, and probably the most, I guess, interesting, is keyword targeting and domain targeting. In terms of keyword targeting, this is a big one on the display network and within Gmail ads. So you can target, users who have email correspondence in their inbox from other travel companies, specific types of travel. So, for example, if you have vacation packages to South Africa and someone else has that correspondence in their inbox, not from you, you can show them an ad knowing that they're interested in that specific type of travel. And then again, probably, I know I've said favorite several times here, but my, I guess, most favorite is definitely domain targeting. So what other companies are they already getting correspondence from that makes them a good match for us? And how can we, benefit from that? How can we use those domains to target users and show users who are already getting that correspondence?
And again, we love hearing from you guys. So if these are strategies that you're currently using, that you're seeing success with one over the other more, absolutely tweet it out to us. I mean, Shannon and I are just as curious as all of you attending on what works for other people, what we can all learn from each other. So feel free to let us know if the keyword targeting, especially through Gmail ads, if you found success in that. And the domain targeting, I think, is becoming really widely popular as far as how to approach specifically Gmail ads, simply because it's a great way to get in front of your exact audience who just may not know you yet.
Perfect. Yeah, and just to kind of again segue from that, one of the other biggest things is knowing your competitors. So I guess the overall theme of this is definitely what sets you apart from everyone else in the industry. What makes you kind of stand out and different from everybody else. So we kind of broke this down to 3 different areas. So the first is knowing similarities and differences between you and all of your competitors out there. So what value propositions do you have that they don't have, or it may be, what value propositions do they have that you don't have? And then product offerings. So what do you offer that's unique or valuable to the company that they may not get everywhere else? And then what you can do is you can turn that around and use that in your ad copy to make sure that your ad copy stands out, which we'll talk about here on the next couple of slides. The next thing is knowing your strengths. So what makes you unique as a company? So for example, if you have several different companies and they all offer free airfare, or the airfare is included, then that may not necessarily make you unique as a company. However, if you offer a specific type of hotel, or all of the meals are included in every package, that may set you apart and allow you to really kind of create ad copy specifically to your company. And the final one is knowing your weaknesses. So we don't like to talk about our weaknesses, but this is one that really can help you in the end. So what makes them stand out where you may not stand out in that specific area, and this is another way where you can wrap your ad copy around that. And then finally, is their product base more diverse? So do they offer more products? Where should your focus be? If they do offer more products, what again makes you stand out against them, even if they may offer more? Perfect. So finally, just kind of again transition is going into ad copy. So this is the third thing here, and maybe one of the most valuable parts of this is the ad copy. So what does the user see from you? So you have your target audience. Now what do you show them? And I definitely agree and think that the first impressions are always key. So this goes for search ad copy, Gmail ad copy, or display ad copies. So within the search network, users typically see, the headline first, and then sometimes they'll, read the description before clicking. Other times they just read that headline. So what can you put in your headline that's going to make you stand out against everyone else that's on that results page? And then within the Gmail ad, what's going to make your little teaser ad copy that's at the top of the inbox stand out from all of the other emails in a user's inbox. And that's going to be, kind of the first impression and what their first thought is of you as a company. The next one is using multiple ad variations. So don't be afraid to test at all. And these two kind of go together. So feel free to test out multiple formats. I've seen, instances where one single image within Gmail ads works so much better than showing, an entire catalog of all of your product offerings. So that's another big one there is just, remember to test. And this goes to ad testing as well within search. So don't be afraid to, test out, how you're phrasing your ad copy, how you're phrasing your description lines, and just always be constantly testing your ad copy to see what works with that specific audience. And then the final one here that you can see is ad extensions. So with ad extensions, this just allows you to take up more space on the results page, and again, show the value of your company compared to everyone else who's on that results page.
And the thing that's on here that I think is really fun is the visual site link. So that's a brand new thing. I think it might even still be in beta with Google, but it's an option basically to show site links that actually have an image to them that ends up looking, I've compared it to like Facebook cards, like just kind of like these little snippets of imagery that you can see where the text ads typically pop up. It's present on mobile devices. I haven't seen it too often out in a while, but it's a pretty cool way to just, like Shannon said, keep adding to the understanding of what your brand can offer and how you stand out.
Exactly, yeah. And so here we have a couple, I guess, examples of what ad copy may look like. Now, this pertains specifically to Gmail ads, but the ideas that we talk about here today can definitely apply across all networks. But here you can see two different examples. The first one is just a single image and then that description there. So it really, shows an image and then explains, exactly what the company is about, and gives you a sense of who they are as a company, how many customers they've had, and so forth. And then for the second one, this is more of a catalog format. So this allows you to show kind of the biggest value proposition there at the top, and then you can also highlight the various locations that you may travel to. So it's more of a catalog format. And then once a user clicks on any of these call to actions here, so fly to Paris or fly to London, then that will take them directly to that page on your site.
And I think, Shannon, kind of speaking to the different formats, I mean, for one, please, each and every one of you listening in, test the different formats before you presume to know what works best. It's really easy to say, well, I like this better. I think this looks way cooler. But honestly, until you've actually tested it, it's hard to know what your users in those moments of being prepared to sign up or purchase are going to respond to. But I think what's interesting here is that if you've got one direction that you're trying to push them, for example, if you've got a tour package that is just the tour package, they've got a landing page assigned to it, it makes sense to really make sure you're testing that single image where you have a single call to action that they're going to. Versus if you're doing something like this ad on the right where you have multiple destinations you're targeting, each of which are going to have their own landing page because they're very different places. So they're each going to have their own experience that the user gets to, which in turn then is going to need those individual layouts in the ad. So yeah, so test. Just keep testing. Just test away. The next tip we have here today is to be patient. So sometimes it's hard to start something new and want it just to turn into a million sales. But it's really important to understand what the process looks like from the customer side of things. So because of the way we understand the travel industry to be, you're not necessarily going to get people who think, you know what, I want to go to South Africa, and then log into their computer and buy a ticket to South Africa. A lot of times it's going to take a nice window of research, looking into exactly what they want to do, maybe multiple vendors who offer what they want to do, and then deciding what their best choice is. But one report that we highly encourage you to do is the Travel Leg report from Google Analytics, where you can look through how long people are kind of working through their first touch to their final purchase time. So it's certainly possible that you're getting people who like refresh their cookies and maybe they appear new to Google Analytics. But really the most important thing is to look through and see across the boards, how is your data coming through and where are you seeing the different kinds of activity here. Similarly to that is the concept of attribution. This is a quick screenshot of our top conversion paths for a travel client. And what we're looking at here is how frequently our users interacted with our different channels and when they ended up making a purchase. So all of these different users eventually went through and made a purchase, but this is where they originated. You can see that so many of these, when it comes to the Gmail ads or Google Sponsored Promotions, which is what GSP stands for here, you can see that so many of these individuals actually began with that first touch through their Gmail ad. So they got to know us a little bit. Maybe they signed up for actually more of our emails, but either way they came through to the website. They may have left, they may have done some other things, but eventually came back through and made a purchase. And that is huge when you're looking at a new initiative, particularly for travel where you know there's going to be a lot of, most people bounce around a lot when they're doing their travels. Typically, we would encourage you to make sure you understand your market to know kind of what that window looks like for you. But then using these kinds of reports is really helpful in understanding how people will respond. So the last tip we've got today is paying attention to seasonality. Now, when it comes to travel, it's extremely important that you understand your own business's seasonality. And I know that that Shannon, you and I have talked before about how that can vary based on what people are doing with their business. So what for you is an example of kind of how things sort of stand out in a seasonal trend?
Yeah, so I think definitely just kind of in my experience, paying attention to when various packages, they sell the most, or whenever users go there, the most frequently. So for example, if you see every year, during the months between January and March, all of your Europe packages, that's when people purchase them and they're getting ready for the summer and whatnot. Then that's definitely, one thing to make note of for the future. However, I would definitely not discount that. So you may see seasonality slightly shift year over year, but just kind of knowing, when those products and services are more popular and when users tend to, venture towards those specific products.
Yeah, and I think it's really important to understand that stuff. And the two kind of follow-up questions are what is your paid search performance when it comes to seasonality? And then how can you change your strategy based on what you see there? So here's a quick screenshot of an example client who saw this kind of trend. And this is just for the Gmail ads. We talked about Gmail ads on Tuesday. My hope is that you guys are all kind of starting to think through that might be a fun thing to pursue. But either way, this is sort of an idea of how we see some fluctuations. Now, what you see here is we can watch as the impressions change over time and the engagement with our ads change over time. Now, this isn't booking specific, but really the goal is to take a look at what your numbers are telling you before you go anticipating how you should approach a new initiative as far as pushing hard, pulling back, things like that. See what you can see through your own data. You can also use Google Analytics so you can see your other channels, but take a look so that you can identify, okay, if I'm in my current initiative that I'm working on, am I looking to increase my sales right now? Does it need to be that direct response, or am I sort of filling my off-season funnel? Maybe right now I'm not seeing a lot of sales, but we don't see a lot of sales from other channels too. Instead, I'm trying to make sure people know who we are, that they're getting ready for their travels down the road, and that they've got us at top of mind. So the second piece of that is the timing. So a lot of travel clients have sort of a high season and sort of a low season. And there are different ways to change your strategy based on where you are in that process. So if you're in your high season, obviously if you've got remarketing lists that you can access, that's the perfect time to say, okay, I know that you're looking around, maybe create a remarketing list for a shorter time, a shorter window, and so that way you can make sure to get in front of them after they've been on your site, maybe a couple days ago. My current personal tip at this point is to use more heavily engaged users than just somebody who came to your site one time. Instead of just being anybody who came to your site, maybe choose they came for a couple different sessions, or they were there for a certain period of time, or they came through a few pages, to know that there's somebody who actually wanted to be on your site, not just any person who's ever come to your site before. Other things you can do are pushing your current promos, of course, when you know that people are in the mindset to book. If you've got something that's really going to stand out to them, making sure that that is at the front of your list there. And then also, because people are doing research, making sure that you don't let your competitors get all the attention, that whether you're using Gmail ads and making sure that you're showing up to people who may have just gone with a competitor otherwise, or you're targeting your competitors in other ways, I would say that that's a great way to make sure that as your customers are kind of looking around at different options for something, that you don't actually accidentally get pushed out. And then similarly with low season, there are different strategies to use, like certainly finding new customers. Shannon listed off a million different ways that you can approach how to reach out to new customers through competitors, through different kinds of keywords, through different kinds of demographic targeting. There's so many options, but certainly knowing that during your low season, it's all about teaching people about who you are. Reminding existing lists of your unique selling propositions, so using things like customer match, where at one point somebody thought you were interesting enough to sign up for an email, but how are you continuing to talk to them as the season is kind of quieted down? Maybe they're not planning something right now, but how do you kind of stay in the back of their mind? And then certainly if you know you've got good promotions or offers coming through, making sure that you're prepping people to be ready to buy as soon as that happens.
Perfect. So that's the 5 tips that we have to cover today. So just as a quick recap, the first tip was know your audience. Who are you targeting? Who do you want to bring in? Who's that key audience that you want to focus your ad copy to? The second one's knowing your competitors. So how do they stand out against you? How do you stand out against them? And so forth. The third one was ad copy being key. So testing is huge here, and then just ensuring that your ad copy is going to stand out amongst everyone else on that results page. The first one, just being patient. So as we know in the travel industry, it's heavily based on research, and a lot of people aren't going to, purchase after that first click. So just being patient, and then after, a given period of time, really looking at the results and seeing how that played out. And then the final one, just paying attention to seasonality and knowing, when's the high season and when's the low season.
Great. All right, so we're getting in all of our questions for our Q&A session. Make sure to send through any last questions you've got. Shannon and I are going to get to them in about 30 seconds. But while we're waiting on that, for you all, we've got an offer in case you've got an account that spends over $15K a month. We are happy to provide for you an account analysis by our team here at Hanapin. We basically take a look at your account, come up with some ideas for optimizations, opportunities there, and just give some extra eyes to it. The team here at Hanapin, we're a pretty nerdy bunch. We love our data, and we love being able to use our insights to share with other people so that they can also learn and grow. As I've been saying with all of my commenting about Think PPC, we love to hear from you. We love to know what everybody else is doing too. We're happy to share it, but love keeping the conversation going. So please, as the quick poll pops up, make sure to note if you're interested in getting one of these analyses, and once that happens, we will get in touch with you about that. But until that point, we've got some questions. So there are a lot of different questions about how you can see Gmail ads, and there's probably a bunch of blog posts out there, but just so you know, if you're not seeing them in your inbox, it's possible that they have been already sort of siphoned off into their own tab by Google, or that they're at the very top of your inbox and you actually have specific tabs for promotional content, social content, and your general inbox. So it kind of depends on the version of your inbox, but it is very likely that they've just been kind of pushed around, so they're not necessarily lumped in with everything else. If you got more questions on that, feel free to let us know, but at this point there's probably a bunch of articles out there that might be able to give you an actual visual view of that as well. So one question that we've got has to do with promo times. So it is absolutely true that in the travel industry, a lot of times you've got a promotion or an offer or a package that comes through, and there's a really limited time period for setting up that ad, getting it out there in front of people, and getting them to respond. So Shannon, I don't know if you have any specific examples or kind of insights to how that works, but I know that in my experience, when it comes to that kind of thing, for one, we do try and get in front of our users with full-on ad copy when it comes time for a promotion like that. So, it may be possible if you've got a really short period of time to just use like a site link or something like that. But really, when you've got an offer that you want to get out there and get in front of people, typically our first step has to do with imagery. So whether it's display ads, whether it's Gmail ads, we try and get those up and going the moment that the promotion is running, and keep those running in front of folks. If the promotion were a little bit longer, I'd say using countdown ads is really great because it allows people to understand the urgency. Certainly, if there's a limited number of seats available for like a package or something or a tour, that's going to get the fire under people to really get in there and sign up. But typically, I would say as flashy as we can get as quickly as possible is usually our go-to at first. Shannon,
Yeah.
do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, another thing too is definitely use those remarketing lists during that time period. So if it's a really short sale, taking advantage of the users that you already know are kind of in that customer base they maybe have not purchased, and focusing on showing them that promotional material is another thing that we've seen success in here at Hanapin.
Oh, and another thing to play off of what Shannon said, this is one of my favorite ones, is when you have a promotion go through, create a remarketing list based on that landing page, because that way if you've got people who are ready for those really quick deals, they want something, maybe it's a package, maybe it's a certain region or something like that, but create a list based on that specific landing page, so that way when you're going through another promotion, you can start reworking that audience who does respond to those deals and things like that, which I think is great. Another quick question was about the income targeting, the audiences for your bid adjustments. That's something I really like to do. I'm all about pulling in as much data as possible. For that, basically what you do is you go into your location settings, and just like you were going to add on a location setting for, let's say, you target all the U.S., and you want to add on Chicago and Ann Arbor. So you add those in, and you don't necessarily change anything about the bidding. You're just saying, hey, we are targeting the U.S., but let's also target some other stuff too, just to see how Google sorts that traffic coming through. It's going to be just like that. You just go into the screenshot I showed there was the demographic reach, and you basically choose to target each and every one of those groups. So let's say it's Ann Arbor. You would say Ann Arbor audience from the 10% income level, add that. Audience from the 20 to 30% income level, add that. And you go through and you add all of those, and then as time goes on and traffic comes through that campaign, you should start seeing all of your data fall into those little buckets. Once you see the data come through, you can say, okay, cool, let's target this, or let's remove this, or, man, there's nothing really standing out, so I'm just not going to do anything. I'll just let it keep collecting. So hopefully that clears that one up. It's a fun little trick just to start collecting data.
Perfect. And then we had another question come in about where do you create ads specifically for Gmail. So you actually create a display campaign, so just as you would any other display campaign. And then when you go to create your ad, so you'll click the little add button there, and you go to add gallery, and then on the, I believe, right-hand side, it'll say Gmail templates. And once you click on that, you'll have the option of, I believe, 5 different templates, and then from that point, Google really just walks you through the step-by-step process of how to create that ad, and then, as always, if there are any mistakes, they will quickly tell you, and you'll have to fix it before you can ever save the ad. But yeah, it's really simple. It's just in a regular display campaign.
Yep, and it's just like a build your own display ad where you can, if you want to put in more of those images, you just say like add an image, and it gives you all the little things that you need for the new call to action, the new little descriptive text, things like that. It's pretty straightforward, and if you've had any time building in the Google, I forget what it's called, Google Ad Builder, maybe that's what it used to be called.
Yeah,
I feel so old saying that as I'm saying the words. But when you go through to build a Google display ad, there are a lot of templates there, and they basically just, like Shannon said, take you step by step through it until you can create an ad that's accepted by Google, and then you can run it and see all that beautiful data coming through. All right, so that's most of the questions that we've got. I might touch on one last one about the over-targeting your audiences. I think that that's a really great concern to have is it possible to get a little too granular in how you target things? It definitely is, and it's a huge bummer when you go to a lot of work to build out a strategy and put it in place, and then you just don't really get any data, or it takes forever to get data. I totally understand that, and I think that the best sort of compromise that you can get to is really using the information you have to make those informed settings for your campaigns. Shannon mentioned the similar audiences, which I think is fantastic. You can do similar audience targeting for display, of course, but search is the newest one that you can also use similar audiences. So aside from things like Gmail ads and stuff like that, even if you're just using new keywords, Something that you can do is using those similar audiences, say, okay, yeah, I'll show, but only to people who are kind of like the folks that I already know are, similar to my converted audience. Using something like that kind of helps you be a little bit guarded when you're creating something new, where you want to have, you want to be open to new folks, but at the same time, you don't want to just let in any old Yahoo. All right, so thanks everybody who sent in your questions. If we haven't gotten a chance to respond, we'll be sure to reach out to you and make sure you get a bit of information when it comes to how we do all these different things. So on that note, we're going to take off, but we love that you guys all decided to come in today and have a listen. Please feel free to reach out if you've got any more comments, tips, insights, or questions for us, and we'll be sure to respond to you. But again, thanks for coming through to our webinar. You can always reach out to us at marketing@hanapinmarketing.com if you've got any follow-up needs from us. But again, thanks for attending. And Shannon, thanks for sharing the screen with me today. This is great.
Perfect. Yeah, it was fun. Thanks, Gary.
All right, we'll see you guys next time.